Hello everyone and welcome to a brand new episode of the Sports Insight with your host Alamdar Khan. And yes, as you all know, this show is all about sports from all across the globe and we try to give you as much information as we can. But anyways, you guys can surely reach out to us on our social media handle, which is at the rate of Indus News Sports. That basically works both for Twitter and Instagram. But anyways, we'll go to the headlines first. Yes, from the world of cricket, New Zealand actually managed to win against Bangladesh by 66 runs in the first T20. And yes, India beat England by 7 runs in a thrilling third and final ODI on Sunday. And yes, from the world of golf, Billy Horschel claims the first WGC title by winning it on Sunday. And England defeated Albania by 2-0 in the World Cup qualifiers on Sunday. And yes, from the world of NBA, LA Lakers beat Orlando Magic 96-93 on Sunday. And yes, those were the headlines, and we'll surely be starting, obviously, with cricket because there are two major updates that we talked about at the beginning of the show on the headlines, which was obviously New Zealand getting that 66-run victory on the opening T20 match against Bangladesh on Sunday. Not only that, obviously, India beating England by 7 runs in the thrilling third and final ODI on Sunday as well. So to discuss this, we have with us Adam Bell all the way from New Zealand. Adam, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Alamdar.
Great. So, Adam, first things first, obviously, your take on New Zealand's victory. Obviously, they're still on fire and they've been phenomenal. They have a lot of edge with regards to where they stand right now. And obviously, Bangladesh is still struggling to get their first victory in New Zealand.
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously, New Zealand comprehensively swept Bangladesh 3-0 in the ODI series, and it continued yesterday in the first T20 match. And I think the main guy who's really stood up for the Black Caps in the last 4 matches against Bangladesh has been Devon Conway, as he's had throughout the summer, and he scored 92 not out yesterday in the third ODI. He got a fantastic 100 along with Daryl Mitchell, and New Zealand's just had too much strength for Bangladesh. They've really struggled in terms of the batting. I felt in the one-day match on Friday. They were chasing 390 for victory, and their batting just did not fire at all and were bowled out, for a meagre score. And even yesterday as well, they lost clumps of wickets. There was an over from Ish Sodhi where Ish Sodhi got 2 wickets and 2 balls and really rocked the middle order of the Bangladesh side. They've never been able to really get their batting going up against obviously a very good Black Caps bowling side, which included Lockie Ferguson yesterday.
Right. Even having the edge, if we look back into the performance from the New Zealanders for the past maybe a few tournaments, a few series, I think, we have mostly 90% plus we've seen their victory. I think the last, from what I remember, there was this only one match that they lost against Pakistan, but obviously won those series against Pakistan when we were touring New Zealand. I just want to ask right now, the situation in the scenario that they are in, obviously they're doing this on their home ground. How do you foresee when they will be touring somewhere else?
Yeah, I mean, look, that's a great question, Alandar. The Black Caps this season have been really dominant at home in all formats, and the next tour that they have will be in England against England, and also the World Test Championship when they play India. So, look, I think it's going to be a massive challenge for this Black Caps side. The last time that this Black Cap side toured was Australia, where New Zealand were beaten 3-0 in the Test series, and then before that, Sri Lanka after the World Cup. So this side hasn't toured for a long time. So at the moment, they're doing well at home in conditions that suit them. Obviously, guys like Tim Selby and Trent Boult really love bowling in New Zealand conditions because it offers a bit of swing, and you look at the batting lineup as well. They're used to the conditions at home that aren't quite as bouncy as, say, places like Australia, or they don't turn as much as places in the subcontinent. So, I think at the moment that'll be the next big challenge for this team to see whether they can in fact, take that great and dominant form that they've been showing in New Zealand and take that overseas.
Right. As far as for teams who are based in Pakistan, for instance, we talk about Pakistan or we talk about Bangladesh or even India. If we visit such pitches like you guys have, obviously the shorter deliveries, it's technically very difficult for us. Even if we look back, even though when India was in Australia touring, I remember the 36 all out, which everybody was like a major upset, but they actually ended up winning the series. It becomes technically very hard for us to face the short ball. How do you think the spin would affect, obviously, when New Zealand tours to England?
Yeah. Look, the last time New Zealand played Pakistan was in the IE in 2018, and in that series New Zealand won 2-1. However, in the second test, Yasir Shah really dominated that test match and showed his class on wickets that turn. Right. So look, I think it'll be a big challenge for the Black Caps side to go over to foreign conditions, pitches that turn, and be able to combat very good spinners. We've seen it at the English side go to India and really struggle against quality spinners, and New Zealand get an opportunity to play against India later this year in a 2-match test series. So that'll be an interesting series because we know how good India have been at home, and we know that they've got great spinners. Axar Patel now has come on the scene, 29 wickets in 3 matches. They've got Ravi Ashwin and Jadeja as well. So look, I think that'll be a massive challenge for us. And like subcontinent players coming to New Zealand, where they've got to adjust to a bit more bounce and pace, right. Our guys have to go over to the subcontinent and adjust to playing on pitches that turn more.
Right. Talking about India, if we look back into the last series that they actually managed to win against England, I think the last ODI that they won was a phenomenal one, and even before that one, in which England actually managed to chase the 336. But the last match that happened yesterday, which on Sunday to be precise, obviously India won, but it was a hard struggle for England, but it was thrilling because England did not give up. How do you see that entire series piling up for England? Because now I think England managed to at least adapt to the situation and scenarios in India by winning the last ODI, but obviously they eventually lost the series as well, 2-1. What's your take on that? Because adapting to home country situation is different. Like you said, if New Zealand would go somewhere else, it would be different. But when now England is absolutely ready, and I think when New Zealand goes to England, it would be a very tricky business. So what's your take on the series that took place in India?
Oh, it was an incredible series. I mean, some of those matches were absolutely phenomenal. And there were some great performances from both teams throughout the series. I think these two teams are the best 2 one-day sides in the world. And I predict that they'll be the 2 teams to look out for in the next ODI World Cup in India. It was a great performance by England in the series. We've got to remember that they didn't have Jofra Archer. We've also got to remember that Ian Morgan didn't play the last 2 one-day matches, and we know how vital he is for this one-day side. It was a great series. I think England can take a lot out of it. In the last one-day match, Sam Curran came in when England were in all sorts of trouble, and he got 95 not out. And at one stage, it looked like England could put India and win the series 2-1. I think it's been a great series. It's also been great that England have been able to give a few other guys a go in the series. David Milan, who's a fantastic T20 player, played in the last 2 one-day matches. They also brought in Liam Livingston, who's been dominant in T20 leagues throughout the world, in particular the BBL. So they've shown that they've got a lot of bench strength at the moment. I think as well India, Pant had an absolutely phenomenal series with the bat. Hardik Pandya as well, so dominant. We know how strong India's top 3 have been over the last few years. I think it was great to see Virat Kohli getting into some form as well. But even from the English side as well, we've got to remember Ben Stokes and that incredible innings where got 90 odd in his last 43 runs came off of 9 balls. It was phenomenal. Johnny Bairstow again proving that he's one of the best ODI batsmen in the world. So look, they'll come out of this really confident. It was a fantastic series played by 2 high quality teams.
Absolutely, and if we actually look into on the ICC standing, England definitely is on the top, India is on the second, New Zealand is on third. So the interesting part would be not only this series, obviously this was an interesting series, it was surely thrilling, but yet again, obviously the home ground edge. So let's talk about if when the Black Caps actually manage to go to England, they will eventually have to go through the entire COVID situation, the entire protocols, the entire scenario, the biosecure bubble, which definitely breaks a lot of barriers, brings a lot of energy levels of the players down. Do you think Black Caps will be ready to face that? Because I think it's one of the most crucial things happening to the players these days. And any country that actually, any team that actually goes to another country actually have a loss in their performance side. So how do you see that? Will the Black Caps be ready enough for that challenge of the biosecure bubble?
That's a great point, Alinda. And we've got to remember that these guys are, when they were coming over to New Zealand in hotel rooms for 2 weeks with very little practice before playing in the first match, and that puts touring teams on the back foot straight away. And we've also got to remember that they're not, they're not playing any games in that period, and sure they have practice sessions, but it's not like playing a game of cricket. And this will be the first time when the Black Caps will have to get used to the quarantine period. I'm not sure what it's exactly like in England at the moment. It was 2 weeks for touring teams coming to New Zealand. But yeah, absolutely, that's going to be a massive adjustment. I'm not also sure about the touring schedule, whether there's going to be any warm-up games before the first test against England. But from what I hear, there's talk that some of the guys that are playing in the IPL may not be available for that series. So that's an interesting point as well. Look, I think probably the advantage from New Zealand is that they've played in summer, and then they'll be going to some of those guys will be going to the IPL. I think New Zealand's got 6 players that will be in the IPL. And then obviously having a quarantine period and then playing some cricket. So it's realistically they get a 2-week break from playing. But yeah, being stuck in a hotel room and only getting limited practice, look, it's going to be a big challenge for us.
Talking about challenge, Adam, talking about challenge, as you've just mentioned, I remember the series that took place in Pakistan against the Proteas, and we managed to win that. And then after that, de Kock wasn't well. He had some mental health breakdowns. He took a break. We are now going to, because our team left for South Africa. So it would be an interesting take on seeing how Pakistan performs there while going through the same quarantine situation, because ultimately these biosecure bubbles, they definitely bring in situations that actually, bring down the morale of the players. I still remember in India, if we talk about when Indian team was visiting Australia, they were going through so much of chaotic situation due to this biosecure bubble. There were so many news about them asking BCCI asking them to, kind of ensure that, it's kind of okay and they relax the quarantine situation. So it would surely have a very strange impact, and, we'll have to wait and see what actually goes around.
Yeah, absolutely. Like we can't deny that having players in biosecurity bubbles is not having an effect on them. I remember hearing Waka Yunus was interviewed after the tour of New Zealand, and he talked about when Pakistan toured New Zealand, and he talked about muscle breakdown, about the inactivity of players during that period, and obviously in that 2-week period you lose a bit of fitness, you lose a bit of muscle mass, all those kind of things, and also you're not prepared for the very first international match because you haven't had a lot of practice matches. And we know when Pakistan came to New Zealand, they had limited practice before the first T20 match. So I think they only had a couple of internal matches, and they didn't get a really good opportunity to play any cricket against any strong opposition in New Zealand conditions. So look, I completely agree. I think it's going to be a big issue going forward. Not only is it's difficult for players to be stuck in biosecurity bubbles for a period of time, but also the lack of fitness and practice going into international contests. So right away, they're on the back foot.
Right. And to be very honest, Adam, if we look back into times when we used to talk about any team touring the other players, we used to talk more about the conditions or the condition of the pitch, whether, if there's dew in the air or not, or the air pressure. But now, ultimately, we've come up to a point of, engaging that biosecure bubble in our life, and I don't know how will players in the long run will be adapting to this lifestyle.
Yeah, absolutely. And the other thing as well, we don't know how long this is going to be going for, because every country's got different protocols, different biosecurity bubbles.
Right.
Also, we've got to factor in vaccines are being obviously released throughout different parts of the world. I know in New Zealand that the vaccines have already started to be to be given out to people at different stages.
Right.
And there's all these different factors, and you're right. These tours that are going on for long, few months, for long periods of time, and it's tough for these guys to be stuck in bubbles and not being able to get out and live their normal lives. So I completely agree. Not only is it the pressure playing on the field, but it's also being stuck in a hotel room.
Right. Anyways, Adam, I think and I hope and I pray that all of this situation comes up to an end and we come up with a good solution. Thank you very much for being a part of your show, and it was a great input from your end.
Thanks very much. Thanks for having me, Alinda.
So yes, that was Adam, and obviously he was discussing the whole idea. We ended up with the same note, obviously the COVID-19 and the biosecure bubble protocols. But anyways, we still have more news coming up, so I'll see you guys after the break. And welcome back from the break. Yes, we were talking about the world of cricket before the break, but definitely, as you know, we talk more about sports from all across the globe. So the next sport that we're going to talk about is definitely the WGC. Yes, with regards to the WGC, Billy Horschel actually managed to claim his first ever WGC title by winning on Sunday. And to discuss all of this, the world of golf, we surely have an amazing guest with us, Mr. Cam Rogers, all the way from US. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning. Great to be with you.
Awesome. All right. So we talk about, to begin with, we'll talk about the WGC. Was it really predicted? Obviously, Billy's, it's his first title as winning the WGC. So what's your take on that? And not to forget that, it was worth 1.8 million, if I'm not wrong. So what's your take and how was it, were people thinking that, this would come up to this point?
I'll be honest with you, the Final Four was a surprise to me. Billy Horschel was a 32nd seed in this tournament, so he certainly wasn't a favorite. Scotty Scheffler, who was in the finals, he was 30th in terms of seeding. And then you had Victor Perez and Matt Kuchar. These guys weren't exactly talked about going into this week. So that's something I actually was really harping on going into this tournament was embrace the volatility, because there's just this element of unpredictability when you talk about match play as compared to stroke play. So it was really surprising for me personally to see Billy Horschel come out on top, because we really haven't seen much from him ever since winning the FedEx Cup playoffs back in 2014. So it was really nice to see him kind of burst onto the scene again. Obviously, this was a reset type of win for him. I think this will put him on the map for the Ryder Cup, for example, and perhaps major championships coming up here. The Masters is not too far down the line, might I remind you. So it was really a gritty, gutsy performance for Horschel. He only made one birdie yesterday, guys, which is obviously unheard of for a winner in stroke play, but in match play, sometimes that's all you need. And he got it done against Scotty Scheffler, who, by the way, is a decorated golfer himself.
Right. So about how Scotty actually managed not to gain the title, and I think, like you said, the unpredictability. How much impact will this be giving, obviously, Billy Horschel to begin with? Because WGC is definitely a big title to look at. And what possibilities will be there for him for the future?
Yeah, absolutely. Here's the thing with Billy Horschel. He's a competitor. He's a grinder. He may not go 20 under in a particular tournament, but you know what? He really thrives in those difficult conditions. It was windy out there in Texas this week. Really difficult conditions. There may not be as much water as, say, in Florida, for example, but he dealt with a lot of difficult environments this week, especially competing against somebody like Scotty Scheffler, who is pretty intimidating too, because he can go on this birdie run from tournament to tournament. He didn't do it yesterday, obviously, in a losing effort. But for Billy Horschel going forward, he is that typical tough course condition golfer. So I'm talking about a British Open or a U.S. Open where maybe he can really thrive when the winning score is like 2 under par, 1 under par, maybe 1 over par. That's Billy Horschel's wheelhouse, not necessarily the birdie fests or anything like that. So I think this will be a nice launch pad for him going forward. Again, we haven't talked about him much the last couple of years, but I will remind you, he is a FedEx Cup champion. He's been on the big stage. He's won on the big stage. He can certainly win a major championship. So keep an eye on him for the Masters coming up.
Yeah, definitely look forward on that. What's your take on the Frenchman, Victor Perez? Obviously, he was close by with regards to the tournament itself. So what's your take on his evolution as a golfer?
Yeah, I was impressed with this performance, and I was impressed with Matt Kuchar as well, another guy not playing so great going into this tournament. And so I think Victor Perez is an incredible talent. He proved a lot to me last week. He did not win the consolation match against Matt Kuchar, but finishing fourth in a very elite field is impressive to me. So I think this is a guy to sort of watch out for major championships too, maybe as a dark horse, somebody that flies under the radar a little bit. But I think this could be a nice start of momentum for him going forward as well as he plays on the PGA Tour. Obviously, he's not full-time on the PGA Tour. He does the European Tour, of course. But he'll be around for the major championships and all the big tournaments here in the States. So I think Victor Perez will take a lot of good feelings out of this tournament and carry them in the future.
Right. Let's talk about the last tournament that also happened. Obviously, we're talking about the Savannah Classics in Kenya. What's your take on Van Tonder's victory on that occasion?
Yeah, we're talking about a guy who has a decorated career from the Sunshine Tour, right? I mean, he ripped off so many wins in such a short amount of time, burst onto the scene here with the European Tour. And look, this was a really exciting final day. Everybody was going low. You look at just a number of 64s. There was a 63 on that Sunday. Victor Dubuisson fired a 66. So everybody was going low. It wasn't like people were collapsing around Van Tonder to allow him to win this tournament. No, this was a hotly contested final day. And beating out Jazz, by the way, in that playoff was truly incredible. Of course, he had to make birdie on that 18th hole to actually get into the playoff. Typically, when that happens, the person who makes that birdie to get into the playoff carries that momentum into the playoff. And obviously, Van Tonder did that, going ahead and winning. So I think, battling what was really easy course conditions and everybody else going low and having him come out on top, I think was pretty impressive. So I think this is a really nice win for him. And again, a proven winner on the Sunshine Tour. He's doing it now on the European Tour.
Interesting. Well, thank you for this take. The last take that I would want to talk about, obviously, as we all know that you are a host of Tiger Woods podcast as well. So I would want to have your word on Tiger Woods' recovery himself, because obviously a lot of people out there are still remembering him in their prayers, and we're glad that he's back home as well. So how is the recovery coming on so far from what you have heard so far?
Yeah, absolutely. Look, I was really stunned and in shock when I first got the news of Tiger Woods and this crash, just because you think of Tiger as the Superman, right? He could never go through something like this, and lo and behold, he has. He was in the hospital for quite some time out there in California, finally back home, as you mentioned, and he's going through the rehab process. I think this is going to be quite an uphill climb. We know Tiger has gone through so many episodes of adversity in his career, the scandal, the back surgeries, the DUI, but I think this might be the most difficult episode of adversity he has ever had. And so it's going to be a long process for him to get back to really doing the mundane things in life, but also swinging a golf club too, right? I mean, you're talking about a back that has been surgically repaired on so many times. It's going to be an uphill climb, but I'm excited to see how he can come back from this, because typically that's what he does. Bad things happen to him and he comes back.
Yeah, let's hope for the best, and we're hoping. Obviously, he's been a fighter all his life, the ups and the downs, but he's always proved himself as the Tiger. But anyways, all I'd say, Cam, thank you so very much for being a part of the show and updating us on what's really happening in the world of golf.
Absolutely. Appreciate you having me. Take care.
Pleasure. So yes, that was Cam Rogers, and he obviously discussed the updates with regards to golf from all across the globe. Obviously, we talked about Billy Horschel's victory, but not only that, we also talked about Van Tonder's victory on the Kenya Savannah Classics. But anyways, we'll switch over to the next news from the world of football. Yes, as we know, the qualifying matches for the World Cup 2022 is currently underway. England actually managed to defeat Albania 2-0. And these qualifying matches will definitely take them further. And this is the second consecutive victory for England for the Group 1 of the World Cup qualifiers. And Henry Kane and Mason Mount actually managed to make that score and take them further ahead. So that was from the world of football. I'll quickly jump into the world of NBA. Yes, LA Lakers won against Orlando Magic 96-93 on Sunday. But Lakers played without Anthony Davis and LeBron James. Not to forget, LeBron James actually went through this ankle injury a few weeks, I think a few weeks back, and we definitely did talk about it on our show. and we're hoping that he recovers soon. But even then, LA Lakers managed to get that victory against Orlando Magic. This was pretty much it with regards to the world of NBA and from the sports side here. Anyway, you guys can surely reach out to us on our social media handle, which is @of Indus News Sports. Till then, take good care of yourself, and bye-bye.